I'm Robert Orm, and I'll be reading you today's edition of the Fall River Herald, dated Monday, April 21st, 2025. Fight the Good Fight. Congressman Auchincloss defends Fall River Social Security Office. By Emily Shirley. In a brief yet impassioned speech outside of the Social Security building at 400 North Main Street, Congressman Jake Auchincloss took aim at Trump administration cuts to Social Security administration. President Donald J. Trump's initiatives to cut administrative costs by closing a list of non-core locations of government buildings now includes the regional office on North Main Street where retirees and people with disabilities receive aid, said Auchincloss. Social Security, he said, is the most important program for retirement security for American elders, and the most important anti-poverty program for American children as well. Mayor Paul Coogan thanked Auchincloss for defending residents' access to benefits, saying Auchincloss stepped in to fight the good fight. Auchincloss, who represents the 4th Congressional District in Massachusetts, including Fall River, Attleboro, and Taunton, outlined a 3-part attack that he claims Trump, billionaire Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, and other government officials have been following to dismantle the reliability of SSA benefits while eroding public trust in the government agency. He said 150,000 of his constituents receive benefits, a figure that is magnified to 1.3 million across the state. First, they try to degrade the quality and the service. They're doing that by cutting off phone service for constituents who rely upon it, Auchincloss said. They do that by coming after the leases of field offices, like the one here in Fall River. Already 404 field offices nationwide have been deemed non-core assets, he said. Secondly, Auchincloss said, the national administration makes fraudulent claims about who is wrongfully benefiting. Auchincloss vouched for Social Security's very low rates of fraud, waste, abuse. Third, Auchincloss claimed the Trump administration intends to privatize the Social Security Administration's work. According to an April 15th Reuters article about former President Joe Biden defending Social Security, the SSA pays out $1.4 trillion in benefits to 73 million elderly and disabled Americans annually. Members of the DOGE team have been inside the agency since February, where leadership has pledged to cut at least 7,000 staff and shutter offices, triggering fears of longer lines, longer wait times, and benefit disruptions. President Trump is absolutely certain about protecting Social Security benefits for law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens and seniors who have paid into this program. He will always protect that program, Caroline Leavitt, Trump's press secretary, told reporters before Biden's speech, according to the Reuters story. This office, says Coogan, is extremely busy and centrally located. This is something we do not want to lose. Some residents do not have access to technology or are unable to afford transportation to visit the valued office to access services, said State Representative Carol Fiola, whose district includes Fall River. While pushback against authoritarian overreach may not form a tangible number of steps to take to save the offices hitting the market, Auchincloss repeated that building public awareness of the threat of losing access to benefits that have been bought into with years of hard work is crucial to combating the potential cuts. Though Trump may claim to be an advocate for Social Security, he is not, Auchincloss said. Auchincloss also mentioned recent footage documenting the arrests and detainments of several individuals from abroad in New Bedford and Somerville, Massachusetts, and New York, most notably the detainment of Tufts PhD student Rumeysa Öztürk, who was studying in the United States with a valid F-1 visa. "What the government is doing right now is depriving individuals of the process," he said. "It's part of a pattern of thuggery. We're seeing the cuts right now. Impairing access is a functional cut to benefits," he added. "If you can't access your benefits, that's a benefit cut," said Rich Kocher, president of the American Federation of Government Employees Social Security Committee. The JFK building and the Tip O'Neill building in Boston that houses Social Security offices were placed on the market in March 2025, he said. The Social Security Administration holds 1,400 leases that have been flagged to be closed. The Fall River Regional Office is one of them. District residents will be forced to travel more than 45 minutes to reach the closest SSA office that can provide them with in-person service, said Auchincloss, claiming he had analyzed a map of the district. "These are folks who may not have access to a car, who may not have access to transit reliably," he said. While some claimants are comfortable talking on the phone or using online systems to access the services they need, the regional presence of government agencies like the SSA is a way of keeping government accountable. People want to be able to hold their government close, Auchincloss said. South Coast Rail. Sign up for service alerts. By Dan Medeiros. State Representative Carol Fiola said April 16th she had lengthy discussions with MBTA officials regarding service delays and the cancellation of trains from Boston the weekend before, which saw inconvenienced riders stuck at South Station for hours on a free ride weekend. Keolis Commuter Services, the company contracted to run the MBTA's commuter rail service, was forced on April 13th to cancel 7 trains to and from Boston on the newly opened South Coast Rail, now known as the Fall River New Bedford line. The company blamed crew availability issues. The cancellations came during an awkward time, in the midst of a promotion where the MBTA has made fares to and from South Coast rail stations free on weekends through April, aiming to attract new customers. Fiola, who was among state legislators key to the 30-year fight to restore passenger rail service to the South Coast, said her office is monitoring the service now that it's here, and said riders should use MBTA alerts to be prepared for issues. "It is our commuter system. We have waited a long time for it, and we finally have it, and people are enjoying using it," she said. With that comes some concerns. Public information officials at the Federal Railroad Administration said in general every train needs at least one passenger conductor to operate. Beyond taking tickets, their job involves being trained and qualified to perform a variety of safety functions in case of emergency. The FRA added, however, that longer or more crowded trains may require more passenger conductors, and that these rules are governed by individual contracts. Keolis did not respond to questions regarding the minimum number of employees needed to staff their train runs to or from Boston. Keolis recently conducted job fairs in New Bedford and Fall River. The company did not respond to questions about any hiring that might have occurred due to these fairs. According to job openings posted to Keolis's website, 21 positions are open in Massachusetts, including a posting for a conductor. According to the Post, conductor trainees are paid $20.75 an hour for a 9-week training period. If they complete that successfully, trainees are paid $25.61 per hour. Since the service opened on March 24th, delays of about 5 to 20 minutes have been frequent, according to periodic checks of MBTA alerts. On April 14th, the MBTA also had to cancel trains on the Providence, Fairmount, and Stoughton lines due to crew availability and equipment shortages. Viola said she's spoken with colleagues on Beacon Hill who have commuter rail service in their cities and towns, and that delays are not unheard of because of the nature of public transportation. Staffing, like everywhere, is an issue, Viola said. If a crew member calls out sick, that can cause problems. That is not planned ahead. I would expect that to be the exception to the rule. If you're going to take commuter rail, plan ahead, know that things can happen, and be aware of the tools that you need to stay apprised of updates. The MBTA provides several ways to keep travelers aware of delays and cancellations. The MBTA Go app for iOS and Android. Riders can use the app to see any changes to service like delays or cancellations and follow train arrivals in real time. Sign up for text alerts at alerts.mbta.com. This is especially useful for frequent riders who take the same train often. Users who sign up can get text or email alerts about specific commuter train runs, or even subway, bus, and ferry runs. Follow MBTA on X. The MBTA's Passenger Information Center is active on the service formerly known as Twitter, posting delay and cancellation info and responding to customer complaints. Trump Pressured Over Revoked Visas by Trevor Hughes. Lawsuits, rallies, and pointed bipartisan questions are ratcheting up the pressure on the Trump administration to explain its growing cancellation of international student visas, forcing hundreds of students and their families to depart the country within days. A broadening number of students are suing to stop the revocations, which are also being contested by 19 Democratic state attorneys general. Senator Richard Blumenthal, Connecticut, has demanded answers about what he called the Trump administration's arbitrary craven cruelty. The Associated Press has tallied at least 1,000 revocations based on news reports and university statements. The cancellations reflect a small percentage of the estimated 1.5 million international students studying in the United States, but have sent shockwaves through the collegiate community. It's incredibly scary, said Leo Gerdin, 22, an international student from Sweden studying economics and government at Harvard. It feels like we're being used as poker chips in a battle with the White House. Gerdin on April 17th helped organize a 300-person rally at Harvard, which is President Donald Trump's latest target. The president and his administration accuse Harvard, among other universities, of allowing anti-Semitism to flourish on campus, endangering Jewish students. More than 25% of Harvard's total enrollment is international students, with about 6,800 of them this academic year. Harvard has refused Trump's demands for dramatic changes to courses and staffing, and federal officials subsequently threatened to ban the university from accepting international students. Many of the students who have lost visas nationwide appear to have no connection to pro-Palestinian protest movements. Federal officials have demanded Harvard turn over a list of international students who participated in those protests last year, and Harvard administrators refused. Blumenthal said there's been more than 50 revocations in Connecticut, including at Yale and Wesleyan. In a letter to the Trump administration, Blumenthal sought an accounting of how many visas have been revoked, the reasons cited for each one, and whether students were afforded due process to contest the decision. In some cases, students who are within weeks of graduating are being forced home. Immigration experts said they've never seen the federal government make such sweeping changes to the ordinarily low-profile process of hosting international students. In Utah, where at least 50 visas have been revoked, Republican Governor Spencer Cox said at a news conference he's concerned the White House hasn't offered any explanations, and Utah would very much like to figure that out. Among the students targeted in Utah is a Japanese national finishing his PhD at Brigham Young University. His attorney told reporters that Suguru Onda has gotten several speeding tickets and in 2019 was ticketed for catching too many fish during a church outing. Onda told the Desert News that although his attorney is fighting the cancellation, he's preparing to leave Utah with his wife and their 5 kids. A coalition of attorneys general has joined a suit brought by the American Association of University Professors seeking to halt the visa cancellations. Many critics of the cancellations say they appear to be targeted towards students who participated in pro-Palestinian protests and represent an illegal ideological purge. Trump administration attorneys say the White House has the right to order non-citizens to leave the United States if they're deemed a security risk. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said he's been revoking visas based on support for terror organizations like the pro-Palestinian Hamas. Justice Department attorneys argued in court this week that under both the federal immigration laws and well-established Supreme Court precedent, the government is able to take adverse immigration action for certain expression. In an April 16th announcement, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem warned Harvard that it would lose both federal funding and the right to host international students if it doesn't fall in line. Last spring, Harvard students protesting Israel's retaliatory attacks on Gaza occupied the university's central courtyard for 20 days and staged a 24-hour sit-in in another building. University officials initially planned to suspend 5 students for their participation, but downgraded that to probation, the Harvard Crimson student newspaper reported. The university also withheld degrees from 13 students during last year's spring graduation ceremony, prompting a 1,000-person walkout, the Crimson reported. Harvard bending the knee to anti-Semitism, driven by its spineless leadership, fuels a cesspool of extremist riots and threatens our national security, Noem said in a statement. With anti-American, pro-Hamas ideology poisoning its campus and classrooms, Harvard's position as a top institution of higher learning is a distant memory. America demands more from universities entrusted with taxpayer dollars. Since Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack on Israel, Harvard's foreign visa-holding rioters and faculty have spewed anti-Semitic hate, targeting Jewish students. With a $53.2 billion endowment, Harvard can fund its own chaos. DHS won't. And if Harvard cannot verify it is in full compliance with its reporting requirements, the university will lose the privilege of enrolling foreign students. The Anti-Defamation League, the country's largest Jewish rights group, gave Harvard an F rating on its 2024 campus safety report card last year, citing what it called a serious problem with anti-Semitism. But in a statement released April 18th, the league said the administration had gone too far in its response. They also are insisting on reforms that go far beyond ensuring the civil rights of Jewish students and faculty. They are imposing or suggesting extremely severe penalties that don't tie to the issue of reducing anti-Semitism, such as investigating its tax-exempt status. Fall River Democratic Caucus. Local Dems invited to elect delegates. The city's registered Democrats are invited to attend an upcoming caucus to elect delegates for the Massachusetts Democratic Convention. The Fall River Democratic City Committee will host a citywide caucus on Saturday, April 26th at 10:30 a.m. at Hong Mies Restaurant, 418 Ketchum Street. Doors open at 10 a.m. for caucus registration. The caucus is for all Democratic wards 1 through 9 and All Fall River registered Democrats are welcome to come and help elect delegates to attend the Massachusetts Democratic Convention, which will be held on September 13th in Springfield. Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll will be at the caucus. Wellness Influencer Has Kennedy's Ear by Swapna Venugopal Ramaswamy. Dressed in a purple jumpsuit and wearing her signature bright pink lipstick, Vani Hari walked through a grocery store aisle filled with Easter candy. "Welcome to the holiday death aisle," said the 46-year-old food activist and influencer, gesticulating dramatically. "It's back and it's in Easter form." Hari, who blogs as the Food Babe, rattled off a list of ingredients, taking pains to emphasize how unpronounceable the chemical names in a pack of roll-up candy are. Polymenite. What? That's part of her shtick. If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. In March, the White House invited her to the first Make America Healthy Again Moms Roundtable. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. moderated the closed-door meeting with some of the most influential women in the new Republican administration, including members of the cabinet. The typical response from her 2.3 million Instagram followers? "You've helped me adjust my entire food thought process. I look at everything in the store with suspicion," commented one user with the handle IDYLD_history_bits_and_PC. Hari's clout as a wellness influencer, Time magazine in 2015 named her as one of the 30 most influential people on the internet, has given her sway over large companies and government officials, even as many scientists say that many of her claims aren't backed by science. Now the food blogger is getting top billing at the White House thanks to President Donald Trump and Kennedy's Make America Healthy Again agenda. For years, it felt like citizen activists like me were the only ones holding these food companies accountable. Hari, who was listed on the agenda for the private roundtable session as a MAHA influencer, told USA Today. Finally, it was somebody in Washington willing to fix the issue that has allowed these companies to put chemicals in our food that they don't put in other countries. Hari wasn't always a healthy eater. As a child, she rejected her mom's Indian cooking to assimilate with her American friends who favored fast food. But that path led to mounting health problems, and by her mid-20s, she began investigating what she was consuming and advocating for transparency in food labeling and the removal of harmful chemicals from processed foods. She'd spent hours researching and reading books on nutrition and studying food labels. On trips abroad, she'd often visit grocery stores comparing labels on food sold by American companies with what they offered stateside. In 2011, armed with knowledge she had acquired through her self-styled research, she launched foodbabe.com to document her healthy eating journey and to share what she was learning about the chemicals in her food. After writing a viral blog post about the ingredients found in a Chick-fil-A sandwich, including food coloring, MSG, and refined grains, the company invited Hari to their headquarters to discuss her concerns. On her blog, she mentions the fact that 2 years later, the company responded by announcing they were removing artificial dyes, highlighting it as a big win for the activist community. By 2014, her blog had millions of people reading it. Her career as a food activist took off, but so did the blowback. Yale University neuroscience Steve Novella dubbed Hari as the Jenny McCarthy of food, and dismissed her as a scaremonger who is sounding the alarm on completely safe ingredients. McCarthy, an actress, model, and talk show host, has been exorciated by the scientific community for her belief that vaccines caused her son's autism. Novella, the founder and executive editor of Science-Based Medicine, run by the nonprofit New England Skeptical Society, wrote in 2014 that he believed Hari had marshaled her scientific illiteracy to pressure Subway into removing an ingredient from its bread. She called azordiacarbonamide, an ingredient to make bread fluffier, the yoga mat chemical, because it also has a variety of industrial uses, including making yoga mats, he wrote. Soy also has a variety of uses, including making yoga mats. In 2017, Hari said her activism took a back seat when she became a mom and launched Truvani, a food company which is billed as offering real food without added chemicals. Among the organic products the company sells online and in stores are protein powders, snack bars, and toothpaste. Hari said she ended her hiatus from activism last September to speak at a Senate roundtable on American Health and Nutrition, a Second Opinion, organized by Senator Ron Johnson, Wisconsin. Kennedy, who had suspended his independent campaign for president weeks earlier and endorsed Trump, came to the session on Capitol Hill. At a dinner afterward, Hari and Kennedy sat at the same table and talked at length about food additives. Hari sat one row behind Kennedy's wife, the actress Cheryl Hines, during his January 30th Senate confirmation hearing to oversee the nation's food and health care systems as Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. Wearing a fuchsia pantsuit, she nodded along as Kennedy spoke about the role of additives and what he said they were doing to America's waistline and its long-term health. Hari doesn't have professional training in health or nutrition. Neither does Kennedy, 71, a longtime environmental lawyer with no background in medicine or healthcare, but who has long argued that chemical additives and food dyes are behind the chronic diseases epidemic in the country. His vow to take on Big Pharma during his short-lived presidential run won the support of many, particularly mothers worried about what was in their kids' diets. I lost faith in my government and my regulatory agencies because I had to go and directly petition food companies to change because they weren't doing the right thing, she said in an interview at the end of Kennedy's first of two confirmation hearings. It's because the FDA was allowing them to get away with it. Hari said it felt like a defining moment because Kennedy had heard the call. We've reached the halfway point of our program, and regular listeners are aware that at this stage of our broadcast we move to the obituaries. However, there are no obituaries in today's edition. Sources: Israel eyeing attack on Iran, by Aaron Bonko. Israel has not ruled out an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities in the coming months, despite President Donald Trump telling Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that the United States was for now unwilling to support such a move, according to an Israeli official and two other people familiar with the matter. Israeli officials have vowed to prevent Tehran from acquiring a nuclear weapon, and Netanyahu has insisted that any negotiation with Iran must lead to the complete dismantling of its nuclear program. Iran and the United States held talks in Rome on April 19th, agreeing to task experts to start drawing up a framework for a potential nuclear deal, Iran's foreign minister said. Over the past months, Israel has proposed to the Trump administration a series of options to attack Iran's facilities, including some with late spring and summer timelines, the sources said. The plans include a mix of airstrikes and commando operations that vary in severity and could set back Tehran's ability to weaponize its nuclear program by just months or a year or more, the sources said. The New York Times reported on April 16th that Trump told Netanyahu in a White House meeting earlier this month that Washington wanted to prioritize diplomatic talks with Tehran, and that he was unwilling to support a strike on the country's nuclear facilities in the short term. But Israeli officials now believe that their military could instead launch a limited strike on Iran that would require less U.S. support. Such an attack would be significantly smaller than those Israel initially proposed. It is unclear if or when Israel would move forward with such a strike, especially with talks on a nuclear deal getting started. Such a move would likely alienate Trump and could risk broader U.S. support for Israel. Parts of the plans were previously presented last year to the Biden administration, two former senior Biden administration officials told Reuters. Almost all required significant U.S. support via direct military intervention or intelligence sharing. Israel has also requested that Washington help Israel defend itself should Iran retaliate. In response to a request for comment, the U.S. National Security Council referred Reuters to comments Trump made on April 17th, when he told reporters he has not waved Israel off an attack, but that he was not in a rush to support military action against Tehran. I think that Iran has a chance to have a great country and to live happily without death, Trump said. That's my first option. If there's a second option, I think it would be very bad for Iran, and I think Iran is willing to talk. The Israeli Prime Minister's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment. A senior Israeli official told Reuters that no decision has been made yet on an Iranian strike. A senior Iranian security official said Tehran was aware of Israeli planning and that an attack would provoke a harsh and unwavering response from Iran. We have intelligence from reliable sources that Israel is planning a major attack on Iran's nuclear sites. This stems from dissatisfaction with ongoing diplomatic efforts regarding Iran's nuclear program, and also from Netanyahu's need for conflict as a means of political survival, the official told Reuters. Netanyahu received pushback from the Biden administration when he presented an earlier version of the plan. The former senior Biden officials said Netanyahu wanted the United States to take the lead on airstrikes. But the Biden White House told Israel it did not believe a strike was prudent unless Tehran moved to accelerate its enrichment of nuclear material or expel inspectors from the country. The Biden officials also questioned the extent to which Israel's military could effectively carry out such an attack. Former officials and experts have long said that Israel would need significant U.S. military support and weapons to destroy Iran's nuclear facilities and stockpiles, some of which are in underground facilities. While the more limited military strike Israel is considering would require less direct assistance, particularly in the form of U.S. bombers dropping bunker-busting munitions that can reach deeply buried facilities, Israel would still need a promise from Washington that it would help Israel defend itself if attacked by Tehran in the aftermath, the sources said. Any attack would carry risks. Military and nuclear experts say that even with massive firepower, a strike would probably only temporarily set back a program the West says aims to eventually produce a nuclear bomb, although Iran denies it. Israeli officials have told Washington in recent weeks that they do not believe U.S. talks with Iran should move forward to the deal-making stage without a guarantee that Tehran will not have the ability to create a nuclear weapon. This can be done by agreement, but only if this agreement is Libyan style. They go in, blow up the installations, dismantle all of the equipment under American supervision, Netanyahu said following his talks with Trump. The second possibility is that they, Iran, drag out the talks and then there is the military option. From Israel's perspective, this may be a good moment for a strike against Iran's nuclear facilities. Iran allies Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon have been hammered by Israel since the Gaza war began, while the Houthi movement in Yemen has been targeted by U.S. airstrikes. Israel also severely damaged Iran's air defense systems in an exchange of fire in October 2024. A top Israeli official speaking with reporters earlier this month recognized there was some urgency if the goal was to launch a strike before Iran rebuilds its air defenses. But the senior official refused to state any timeline for possible Israeli action and said discussing it would be pointless. Any life on ocean-covered world may be non-sentient. By Eric Lagata. The first sign of possible extraterrestrials detected in the cosmos didn't come in the form of little green aliens flying around in saucer-shaped spacecraft. In fact, the life could be, emphasis on the could be, thriving on a distant ocean-covered exoplanet named K218b is likely non-intelligent at all. But that doesn't make the recent discovery any less exciting. Astronomers at the University of Cambridge announced on April 17th that they had found the strongest evidence yet that life might exist anywhere else besides Earth. Using data from NASA's James Webb Space Telescope, an advanced telescope launched in 2021 fitted with powerful infrared instruments, the researchers detected atmospheric clues hinting that microbial organisms could be living on the surface of the exoplanet in the constellation Leo. The researchers were able to find possible hints of molecules and gases that on Earth are signs of life. But if anything is living on the planet, it would likely be non-sentient microorganisms akin to Earth's phytoplankton. K218b is considered a Hycean exoplanet, as opposed to a rocky planet, due to its potential to possess a hydrogen-rich atmosphere and surface covered in ocean water. Since it was discovered in 2015, K218b, which orbits a red dwarf star more than 120 light-years from Earth, has captivated scientists who have considered it among the best potential life-harboring ocean worlds. The first observations in 2019 confirming the possible presence of water were made with the Hubble Space Telescope. In September 2023, another investigation with Webb revealed something more: traces of carbon-bearing molecules in K218b's atmosphere, including methane and carbon dioxide. K218b is in what astronomers refer to as the habitable zone, where planets have the right conditions for water, providing a key ingredient for life to flourish. In a nod to the classic fairy tale, astronomers even refer to planets with these conditions as being in the Goldilocks zone, because conditions have to be just right, neither too hot nor too cold, for water to remain in liquid form and pool on surfaces. The mass of K218b is a whopping 8.6 times bigger than Earth. The planet's large size, with a radius 2.6 times that of Earth, means that the planet's interior likely contains a large mantle of high-pressure ice, like Neptune, according to astronomers. It is also smaller than Neptune, making it what astronomers refer to as a sub-Neptune planet that, while not present in our solar system, is what NASA says is among the most common type of planet known so far in the galaxy. For the most recent discovery, a team of researchers used a different instrument outfitted to Webb to study the light from K218b's parent star as the planet passed in front of it from Earth's vantage. As starlight passed through the planet's atmosphere, the clues left behind allowed for astronomers to piece together the gases in the atmosphere and detect a possible biosignature. On Earth, the sulfur-based gases they detected are only produced by life, primarily microbial life. Florida Rampage is 81st Mass Shooting of 2025 by Janine Santucci. An April 17th mass shooting at Florida State University, where a gunman killed 2 people and injured 6 others, was the 81st mass shooting in the United States in 2025, according to the Gun Violence Archive. Police in Tallahassee said a 20-year-old Florida State student, Phoenix Ixner, opened fire around lunchtime on the campus using a handgun that belonged to his stepmother, a local sheriff's deputy. A mass shooting is defined by the Gun Violence Archive as one in which at least 4 people are shot, not including the shooter, regardless of how many people die. At least 81 people have been killed and another 352 injured in mass shootings throughout the country so far this year, the data shows. The attacks include a Dallas high school shooting in which 4 students were wounded, a shooting at a New Mexico park that killed 3 people and injured 15 more, and a house party in Washington that ended with 2 young people dead and several others injured after gunfire broke out. The Florida State shooting was also the 6th mass shooting in the state so far in 2025, the USA Today network, Florida, reported. This is at least the 27th school shooting this year, and my heart breaks for our country, Chris Brown, the president of Brady, a gun violence prevention organization, said in a statement. On April 16th, we marked 18 years since the shooting at Virginia Tech, my alma mater, and in just 3 days we will recognize 26 years since the shooting at Columbine. Since Columbine, there have been over 420 school shootings across the United States. The attack in Tallahassee came just 2 days after the shooting at Dallas's Wilmer Hutchins High School injured 4 people. A 17-year-old turned himself in hours after the shooting and was held on an aggravated assault mass shooting charge. The deadliest mass shootings so far in 2025 have claimed 4 lives each in murder-suicides in Florida, Wyoming, and Indiana. Shootings in Virginia, New Mexico, and Texas left 3 dead each. On March 26, a mother, 32-year-old Julie Cruz, and her 3 sons between the ages of 2 and 11 were shot and killed at a home in Pembroke Park, Florida, the Broward County Sheriff's Office said. Cruz's 8-year-old daughter was also injured. The suspect, who shared 2 of the sons with Cruz, was also injured with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Another family shooting unfolded on February 10th in Byron, Wyoming, where when a mother shot her 4 daughters before turning the gun on herself. 3 of the daughters, between the ages of 2 and 9, died at the scene. A 4th daughter, age 7, died days later, local news outlets reported. A February 21st shooting in Lake Station, Indiana, was also considered a murder-suicide at a mobile home park, CBS News reported. Authorities said a father murdered 27-year-old Breonna Payne and their 3 daughters, ages 4, 6, and 7, then killed himself. All Scholastics, High School Girls Basketball All-Stars, by Steven Sanchez. The Herald News Winter All Scholastics continues with Girls Basketball All-Stars. There were a lot of top-notch performances throughout the 2024-25 season by these student athletes, but none did it better than Westport's Jenna Egby, which was why she was selected the Herald News Girls Basketball Player of the Year. The Herald News is pleased to announce the 2024-25 Winter All-Scholastics Girls All-Stars from Greater Fall River. Girls Basketball Player of the Year Jenna Egby, Westport. Egby had a career season for the Wildcats this past winter. The senior center was named a Mayflower League All-Star and Rick Jalbert All-Star. Egby led Westport in points, 201, rebounds, 219, and block shots, 91. She helped lead the Wildcats to another Sweet 16 playoff berth. Egby had multiple games with a double-double and several games with nearly 10 blocks per game. First team Hartley Cordiero, Atlantis Charter. Cordiero was the heart and soul of the Tritons all season long from the playmaking position this past winter. She averaged a team-high 8 points, 2 blocks, and led Atlantis Charter in assists during independent league action. Evie Fernandez, Diamond. The Bengals senior forward led the team in minutes and started every game this season this winter. She was named a Mayflower All-Star and a Dave Cohen's nominee. Fernandez, a team captain, averaged a team-high 13 points per game and grabbed 5 rebounds per game. Always trustworthy and the hardest worker on the team. Brooke Fisher, Somerset Berkeley. Fisher opened a few eyes in 2024-25 for the Raiders. The SBR junior grad was named a South Coast Conference All-Star. Fisher scored a team-high 185 points, including 33 three-pointers. She averaged 8.8 points, 2.4 rebounds, and 2 steals per game, always matched up against opponents' best offensive player. Kaylin Hadger, Joseph Case. Hadger enjoyed a solid winter season in her final year for the Cardinals. The Case senior forward had 109 rebounds, scored 64 points along 10 assists and 11 steals. Hadger was a Dave Cohen's nominee. Maddie Hargraves, Durfee. Hargraves had another all-round season for the Hilltoppers. The Durfee junior guard forward was named a Big Three Conference All-Star. Hargraves averaged 8.4 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, and a league-high 3 assists per game. She also chipped in with 2.8 steals per game and participated in the Rick Jalbert All-Star Game. Jada Martino, Durfee. Martino was active on the court all season for the Hilltoppers. The Durfee senior guard led the Big Three Conference in steals, 3.5, and averaged nearly 5 points per game. Martino also pulled down 3.4 rebounds per game with an assist per game. She was a Dave Cohen's nominee. Mackenzie Pyers, Somerset Berkeley. Pyers was consistent all year long for the Raiders. The junior guard led SBR in points per game, 10.7, had 5.4 rebounds, 2.3 steals, dished out nearly 2 assists per game. She finished with a team-leading 213 points. Pyers was a South Coast Conference honorable mention. Emma Plant, Joseph Case. Plant did it all for the Cardinals during the winter season. The junior center was named a South Coast Conference All-Star and Team Most Valuable Player. Plant recorded a team high in points, 246, rebounds, 182, steals, 51, and blocks, 65. She participated in the Rick Jalbert All-Star Game. Alana Rivera, Diamond. Rivera had a solid season for the Bengals this past winter. The junior forward averaged 10 points per game, 2.5 three-pointers per game, and led Diamond in three-point shooting. Rivera competed in the Mayflower Athletic Conference All-Star Game. Tess Sylvia, Westport. Sylvia had a solid final season for the Wildcats this past winter. She was named a Mayflower All-Star and a Dave Cohen's nominee. The senior captain had 63 points, 61 rebounds, and 58 steals on defense. Silva helped lead Westport to a Sweet 16 berth. Tegia Sterling, Durfee. As a freshman, Sterling showed her power around the rim for the Hilltoppers. She was named a Big Three Conference All-Star. Sterling led Durfee in scoring, 8.9, led the league in rebounds, 10.0, had nearly 2 steals per game and a block per game. Zoe Sylvain, Westport. Sylvain was one of the reasons the Wildcat clinched a spot in the Sweet 16 this winter. The Westport senior was named a Mayflower All-Star. Sylvain finished her final season with 148 points, 72 rebounds, 75 assists, and 35 steals. Second team: Kylie Cabral, Joseph Case, Izzy Carvara, Joseph Case, Sarah Costa, Somerset Berkeley, Emily DePina, Durfee, Jada Figueroa, Diamond, Julia George, Westport, Grace Kayada, Somerset Berkeley, Abby Lavoie, Diamond, Averly Lane, Durfee, Cara Rego, Diamond, Skylar Resendes, Westport, Skylar Rivers, Somerset Berkeley. Perceptions for 50-win teams change quickly. By Jeff Zilkett. Not all 50-win seasons in the NBA are equal. Optics change perception. The Los Angeles Clippers were an underappreciated and undervalued 50 to 32 win squad, a fantastic starting five of James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Chris Dunn, Norman Powell, and Ivica Zubac, and coached by the tremendous Ty Lue. The 50 to 32 Denver Nuggets dealt with chaos, friction between the coach, Michael Malone, and general manager, Calvin Booth, that resulted in both getting fired with 3 games remaining in the regular season. The New York Knicks' 51-31 season seemed underwhelming with the additions of Karl Anthony Towns and Michael Bridges, and colored by the 60-win seasons by Boston and Cleveland, and the idea that the Knicks were never close to those two teams, losing all 4 games to the Celtics and all 4 games to the Cavaliers this season. The Indiana Pacers' 50-32 campaign was muted by a slow start, lack of drama, and a dynamic star and Cleveland's 64-win season. The Los Angeles Lakers' 50-32 season produced the prospect of a deep playoff run with the trade deadline acquisition of Luka Doncic paired alongside LeBron James. What happened to those teams as the 2025 NBA playoffs began April 19th? The Pacers trounced Milwaukee 117-98. The Nuggets showed resolve in a 112-100 overtime victory against the Clippers. The Knicks pulled away from Detroit 123-112, and Minnesota crushed the Lakers 117-95. How have perceptions changed after Game 1? The Pacers, who reached the Eastern Conference Finals last season, look impressive again with Pascal Siakam, 25 points, 7 rebounds, 1 block, 1 steal, and Tyrese Halliburton, 10 points, 12 assists, playing like all-stars. Maybe Indiana is peaking at the right time and capable of getting back to the conference finals. Nikola Jokic, regardless if he wins his 4th MVP award in 5 seasons, is the best player in the league and helped get interim coach David Adelman, who is auditioning for the full-time job, his first playoff victory. As good as the Clippers have been defensively, stopping Jokic, 29 points, 12 assists, 9 rebounds, 3 steals, is a problem for every team. Clippers Nuggets has the potential for an all-time great first-round series. The Knicks passed their first test. The Pistons are tough and led for long stretches, including most of the third quarter and almost half of the fourth. But the Knicks turned a 98-90 deficit into a 111-98 lead. Experience mattered, and the Jalen Brunson-led Knicks showed determination, especially in the fourth quarter during a 21-0 run. Brunson had 34 points and 8 assists, and Karl Anthony Towns had 23 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals, and 3 blocks, and OG and Anunboy had 23 points, 7 rebounds, 5 steals, and 2 blocks. That's what the Knicks need from their 3 best players. The Lakers looked vulnerable, the only home team to lose. They couldn't generate quality offense inside the three-point line, shooting 18 for 42 on twos, and more important than that, James and Doncic didn't overwhelm Minnesota. James scored 19 points on an 8 for 18 shooting, 1 for 5 on threes, and Doncic had a quiet 37 points and just 1 assist, almost 40 from Doncic, and the Timberwolves still won. That's like a win and a half for Minnesota, which limited James and Doncic to a combined 4 assists. First-time head coach J.J. Redick of the Lakers wasn't happy with his team's physical intensity in the first half. It's also on him to fix that, and defensive issues, for Game 2. What just happened matters most. The NBA playoffs produce prisoners of the moment, but it's just one game. Perspectives change from game to game. And that's all I have time for. This is your reader, Robert Orm, saying thanks for listening.